Hi guys, and welcome to my 17th tutorial on HTML and web structure, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk about objects in JavaScript. In my previous tutorial you learned about events, and this actually will continue in my next tutorial. I will further explain the events, but I'll also explain more about the objects, because objects are part of object-oriented programming and the topic is quite vast. Today I will just cover how to create an object, how to create a constructor, and how to use them basically, or what objects are. And so let me start with the definition. Objects are basically a reference type of operators. We use them like we do with variables, but instead of using the hard values like we do with the variables, we use the reference to access different types of information. Now, the object can store as much information as you want. There will be different references, and all those references will have different information. So, for example, in variable you can have a value, whichever type of value it is. For example, string or numeric. You can have only one value. In arrays, you learned how to create indexes. But again, indexes will take a specific number of a specific place in the memory, and objects now will use the reference type, not the hard values but the reference, and will access those reference points to extract or assign information. So when we create the object, we have to create some kind of constructor. Because the object will be simply useless to us, when we create an object, we always create a constructor, and that constructor has also different designs. So, for example, you can have a constructor which passes the value or receives the value, and then assigns those values from the object to the reference numbers, to the reference which then you can use. Or you can have an empty arguments, so that would make it like a default constructor with no arguments passed, and you can still make the references of the objects, but the values will be hard values. Therefore, whatever object creates will have the same values, because you will use, for example, the same function to create the same different objects, because you don't need to create just you are not constrained to create just one object of one function. In this case, function, because in other programming languages you will use class for that matter. We don't have classes here, as you can see. I don't know if you read some kind of specifications for the JavaScript, but we don't really have classes. We use functions. This is the highest order we can get, and function will act as a constructor for us and as a class basically as well, because we will get all the information to the class and from the class, like we do, function, like we do in other programming languages with the classes. And so first of all, let us design the function. So function, you already know how to do. You write simple keyword function, you give it any name. I will use cars because this is the example I've used actually in my written tutorial, written document. I've used cars, so I will just use the same example with the cars, and inside you put the arguments. For now I will just leave it empty. I will come back to it right now. So pretty much this is the function, and inside it we will have our references to different type of information. Now if you want to pass the information, you can of course do so, adding the arguments, or you can leave it empty like this and simply construct your object. To construct your object, you write this dot keyword. This dot keyword will assign a specific value to the reference. So this will become the reference, and then when you use the object, you use it the same way as you do with the strings, for example, or arrays, and you use the name of the object, and you have the reference, and that reference will correspond to the value which you assign to it. Now, of course, if it's a hard value, each and every object you create from this function will basically contain the same information, which is not very sufficient. That's why we also pass, but let me just show you the example. So for example, color equals red. So this is one reference. Now if I create my object and any other number of objects, so I create 10 objects, each and every of them will have a color reference which is equal red. Every object will have this, and the same value as well. If I add more of these, you'll also be able to transfer those to other objects. So every type of object you create out of this function will contain this reference. Now, if I create the object, it's pretty simple. It works on the same basis as the array. I mean, not the basis, but the build is pretty much the same. With one difference. The difference is that when we create the array, we have name equals new array. In this case, we have the name equals new and the name of the constructor. So basically name of the function. So name equals new cars. Like this. And if you have arguments, you then open the bracket, add the arguments and close the bracket. If you don't have the arguments, you just simply open and close the bracket. So let me show you. For example, Audi is the name of the car, equals new cars. And it has to be the same name as your function. Otherwise, you won't be able to create the object. And I don't have any arguments, so I'll simply do something like this. And if you want to print out something from the object, you also have two ways of doing this, which I'm gonna show you. One way, just other box. You know about the other one because it's document.write. But what I wanted to show you is how do you access it? How do you access the information in your object? Because this is a simple object right now. This is the most simple object with no arguments. You don't pass any arguments. You just have one reference inside the function, and that's pretty much it. So if you want to print it or use it in any way, like you do with variables, you can do something like this: alert, and you write the name of the object, so Audi. That, because you specify the reference now, you have to specify this name. It's always this name. Now, when I show you later on how to do with the arguments, you will see something strange. But this won't change. It always will be this name, or whichever you have. How many you have them? It's always this dot and this name is the reference. So Audi.color, like this, and simply print it out. So if I save this now, I save this, and I hit F5, and you see in the other box red. So as you can see, even if I create 10 objects of the same function, of the same constructor, I will always get a result red, nothing else. So this is pretty much rubbish, you may say, because what's the point, right? If you create a couple of objects, you want them to be unique. Well, this is true, you want them to be unique, and there's not really point for creating objects which are the same. Why would you create 10 objects which have the same data? This is just waste of time and effort. So instead of doing this, you can do something like this. So arguments now. You pass the arguments, you pass the color, you pass, for example, the make, and the price. So you pass 3 arguments, for example, and instead of doing this now, you say color. It may seem strange to you because this dot color equals color, and it's like you assign the same thing to the same thing, right? It's not. This dot color is just the name of the reference. It's just the name. It's easier to write the same names as you pass those. So for example, if you pass the color, because this won't change. This is the same. This color is the same as this. Those two are the same. This is the assign statement. I assigned whatever the value is here in this one to my reference, which is named color, of course. And why is it the same name? It's because it's easier to remember. Now, for example, if you name it differently, you will have to remember the name. So if you, for example, think of the color, you know what color is. You know it's red, green, blue, whatever. and you can access it easily. But if you say this dot, I like it, or whatever, you will have to search it because you won't remember what the color was for, what was the name of the color reference. So it's always better to actually use the same names as you do with the transfer ones. It's simpler. If it's confusing for you, then don't use the same names here. So for example, use N1, N2, N3. And then N1 is the color, N2 is a make, N3 is a price. You can do something like this. It's valid, but it's also a waste of time. You can just write the same names and repeat them. It's valid to do something like this. So if you have your one, you have to add two more actually. So this dot make, I think is make equals make, and this dot what was price equals price. So this dot price equals price, this dot make equals make, and color equals color. So pretty simple. This is your constructor. That's how the constructor works. You pass three values, you save those values into the reference, and then you can access those references anytime you want, anywhere you want. And now you have this object. This object now is incomplete. The object is incomplete because it doesn't have arguments. And the function, the constructor, asks us to provide three arguments. Now when you create your objects, you will have to provide those arguments, otherwise the object won't work. It's the same story with any other programming. When you create a constructor which asks for arguments, you will have to add those arguments, otherwise the object won't be created or won't work. And so basically you have to specify them in string or in numbers. It's whatever you like. So color, for example, black color, and make, for example, I don't know, Audi, it's Audi, and a price, well, I don't know, pound, let's say 21,000, like this, and that's pretty much it. So you just specify them in strings or in numbers, in whatever you like. So this object is now correctly created, and it's passed to the function, takes all the pass everything to their references. Now you can use them. As I showed you already how to use them, but I will show you the different example now. So we will use a variable. So user input. Actually, I promised you, I think, quite a while ago, I will show you how to input stuff without the forms. So I'm going to show you now. And it's called the prompt, and it's part of the alerts. It's not actually part of it, but it comes together like with alerts and stuff like this. You have a alert box, but you also have a prompt. I don't know if I showed you this, but I'm positive I didn't. So the prompt is used to input some stuff. User input, basically. User input something, and it's stored in the user input variable in this case. So the prompt, basically, first of all, you put the message in. You put the message, some kind of message, and you don't have to do anything else. So, for example, please enter the price, like this. So please enter the price. User enters some kind of price, and it's stored inside the user input. Okay, so pretty simple. And now you can use if statement, for example. If statement. You can ask, for example, whenever the price is exact 21,000, for example, or if it's less, more, whatever. You already know how to use if statements. So I will do something like this. User input is equal to, oh, not too much, 21,000. If it's equal to, do something else, do something else, pretty much like this. Okay, so if it's 21,000, then I want, for example, to print for the user the color of the car and the make of the car. So how do I do this? You can use alert. So alert, and now you access, as I showed you previously, you access this reference with the use of the object. So basically you say Audi, that, and the reference name. As I said, color, for example, you write the color. If you want more, you just add plus. You can add space because there will be no space. Add space to it, plus, for example, and you can add another one, for example, Audi.make, like this. Close it, add semicolon, and you can go to else statement, for example. Now else statement can also have alert statement, alert box, which will, for example, print out the price only. So the price only, Audi dot price. So if I run this now, you will notice that I'll have a choice of the prompt. Prompt will pop up for me, the box. When I input something, depending on the input, I will get one of these results. So save and refresh. As you can see, this is the input box, the prompt with my message. Please enter the price. For example, if I enter some kind of gibberish, I will get the price here. So this is the price my object has, the car. Now if I refresh this and I enter the correct price, so 21,000, I'll get the color of the car and the make of the car. So black Audi. So that is it probably. That's the simplest way of of using the objects. Now the other things you can do with it, as I said, it's limitless. Your limit is your imagination, basically. So what you can do with it as well is, instead of using prompt messages, you can add a message to your object and display that message. So instead of doing this, you can just simply say Audi.message, and this message will prompt. So you don't have to write bad messages. If you have a message, for example, on your page which is displayed often, you can just create one reference to that message with the object. Each and every object will have it. And you can simply use that reference every time you use that message. Instead of writing the message all the time, you can just simply write the Audi dot, for example, I don't know, a message, and you will get the message outputted in your prompt or in your alert or whatever you want. Now, so that's one way of using it. Now the other way, you can also output the whole elements, every element that object contains, onto the screen or to the alert box, depends on you. So to do that, you can use a special loop. Now we have a special loop in here which allows us to output each and every element in the object. And to do so, we have to actually create a couple variables. I will use var prop, which is for the properties, and var answer, which will be the final answer. I will make it string so that it doesn't get confused. And now for loop. For loop, normally you use int, for example, I mean not int, but var I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. This is the normal use of the for loop. But this one is special. This one doesn't use any of this. What this one uses is the name of the variable, which will be responsible for the properties or the elements of the object, and the object itself. And that's how you write it. So prop is the variable in Audi. That's my object name. So prop in Audi. Not this one. This one. So prop in Audi will allow me to get each and every element of my object, of my references, and combine them, for example, together to one message. How to do it? Well, simply you can use answer plus equals, because it's a loop. If I say just equals, the loop will record only one element. If I say plus equals, then the loop will take to the answer, the variable, will get all the elements. So plus equals must be used if you want all the elements. If you use just equal, the answers will be overwritten, and there's no point basically. You can do that by simply, you know, outputting the um, the result yourself, one result yourself. So there's no really point. Okay, so answer plus equals prop name. That will be the name of the prop, and plus some kind of separator like this, plus Audi, and inside this square bracket you add the prop. Sorry. Inside this bracket you add the prop square bracket. This will actually produce the value of your property. This will produce the name of the property. So for example, color or make or price, those are the names of the property. But actually to get the value, the actual value, you will have to say Audi and then square bracket the prop, so the name, and plus you can do n, which is new line. I think it's this way, the slash, nevertheless. And then you can print out the answer, for example, of the for loop finished, so alert like this, and answer like this. Okay, so let me run this now, save, and output this. Okay, so as you can see, the alert box printed color and column black, make, Audi, and price 21,000. So that's how you output your whole object. And of course, if you have more of these elements, it will work for each and every element. So if you have 3 of them, it will output 3. If you have 100, it will still have output 100 of them. For example, in the alert box, so you will get a lot of data and probably a very big alert box. So sometimes you can maybe output it on the page. Depends on you. But nevertheless, this is how you use it. Sorry. And that's pretty much about the basis of the objects. That's pretty much it. As I showed you how to create the object, how to create the constructor, which is very crucial. But also show you how to output the whole object's data, all the references. And that's pretty much it about this tutorial. As I mentioned, my future tutorials about objects will contain more information, as I want to spread it through 2 or 3 tutorials, because it would take too much time just for me to output everything for you, and explanation would be too long basically. So you get bored probably, and you wouldn't want to watch it. And anyway, I think you like. That's it. If you like my videos, visit my webpage and YouTube channel for more tutorials. There's loads of them. If you require, I also create document tutorials which are coming out faster than videos, because they're already there. So the JavaScript is finished already with the written tutorials. I already started PHP. If you're interested in PHP, you can download those tutorials from my webpage, which is in the description tag mostly. And I will see you probably in my next tutorial, which will be more, which I will show you more details about objects, as well as the future tutorials will show you how to create animation, also time manipulation, which is very useful in programming, I would say, and especially the web programming, the time manipulation, but also different events with the mouse click, or with the mouse events, because we have 4, or I think 4, yeah, there will be 4 different events you can do with the mouse. As for example, on click events. Sorry about that. As on click events, on click you, for example, click, but mouse has a different events as well, and those events will be explained to you. For example, one of those events is on mouse over. So when you hover over your mouse over the object or picture, link, whatever you want, you will learn those events. But till then, I will see you in my next tutorial, and bye.